At the Redmi Note 5 Pro launch, Xiaomi India was actually keen to play up the new algorithm of its portrait mode. In fact, Xiaomi showcased that the Redmi Note 5 Pro's edge detection is actually better than that of the Pixel 2 and the iPhone 10. Well, why is that a big thing? Because the Redmi Note 5 Pro actually costs 13,999 for the base variant, which is a fraction of the price of the Pixel 2 and the iPhone 10. So therefore, I decided to put this to test and answer the question, is the Redmi Note 5 Pro's portrait mode actually that much better than that of the Pixel 2 and the iPhone 10? Hi, I'm Ershad from Mr. Phone, and let's jump right into it. Before I forget, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon to get notified about more such kick-ass tech videos. Let's compare the specs first. The iPhone 10 comes with dual 12 megapixel cameras on the rear with a secondary telephoto camera. The Redmi Note 5 Pro on the other hand comes with a 12 megapixel primary camera on the rear, ably supported by a 5 megapixel depth sensing secondary camera. The Pixel 2 on the other hand is the boss in this equation because it comes with a single 12.2 megapixel camera. On the front you get a 20MP unit on the Redmi Note 5 Pro, whereas you get a 7 megapixel and an 8 megapixel camera on the Pixel 2 and the iPhone 10 respectively. Now that the specs are out of the way, let's jump right into a comparison. Most of us will use the portrait mode to capture humans more than anything else. I use Mr. Phone's founder Ashish Huda as a subject. His neatly gelled hairstyle can pose a problem for many edge detection algorithms, but the Redmi Note 5 Pro does a really good job, for the most part. On closer look, you will notice that a few strands of individual hair have been blurred out, but overall it does look impressive. But the best edge detection is achieved by the Pixel 2. It resolves individual strands of hair beautifully. Evidently, Google's AI-based machine learning is on the overdrive here. If you notice closely, both the Pixel 2 and the Redmi Note 5 Pro tend to focus the shirt really well too. The iPhone 10 on the other hand ends up focusing only the face and soft focusing the hair and the shirt. There's a reason for this. The Redmi Note 5 Pro and the Pixel 2 use a linear blurring algorithm instead of individually focusing on the subject and creating a blur around it. You could prefer the iPhone's technique, but I'm not really a fan of this. Also, as far as pure details and dynamic range are concerned, the Pixel 2 does a much better job than the other two. But I was also honestly surprised at the amount of details that the Redmi Note 5 Pro could actually resolve. I shall give this round to the Pixel 2, but the Redmi Note 5 Pro comes a close second, followed by the iPhone 10 in third position. On many occasions, you will capture photos of friends together. In our comparison, the Pixel 2 smokes the competition and I'm not really surprised. But what's shocking is that the Redmi Note 5 Pro shot is much superior when compared to the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10 captures an extremely moody image here. In comparison, the Redmi Note 5 Pro captures impressive colors and details. Once again, the top 3 spots go to the Pixel 2, Redmi Note 5 Pro and the iPhone 10 in exactly that order. Once in a while, you'll want to shoot pictures of inanimate objects like flowers using the portrait mode. But note this, most portrait mode algorithms are suited for human faces. I decided to shoot a flower to check if the portrait mode holds up on all these 3 phones. To my genuine surprise, there was very little separating our 3 test samples. In fact, the color accuracy, detailed reproduction and the exposure was near identical on the photos captured by the Redmi Note 5 Pro, the iPhone 10 and the Pixel 2. I found it really difficult to distinguish between the 3 samples. If you notice closely, however, the iPhone 10 decides to blur the leaves in the background, thanks to the fact that it doesn't do linear blurring. But it looks pleasing nonetheless. I'm going to call this round a tie. This is where I start stress testing the phones. Our test subject was an action figure in our office backdrop. For the very first time, the Pixel falters. You can clearly see a green tint all over the image. Moreover, parts of the legs are underexposed. The Redmi Note 5 Pro does an impeccable job with exposure, color accuracy and cutout. But the iPhone 10's shot is the best of the lot, despite the noise. This round, the iPhone 10 takes the cake, followed very closely by the Redmi Note 5 Pro and the Pixel 2. In my low light test, I picked a convenient lighting condition suited for smartphones instead of shooting in extreme low light. This is the test that clearly showcases the difference between a budget phone and a flagship phone. The Pixel 2 and the iPhone 10's portrait shots capture fairly detailed images. Evidently, the Pixel 2 shot is superbly detailed and very crisp. The Note 5 Pro struggles to maintain focus and the details are smudged too. Once again, our preconceived notions about more megapixels equal to better pictures were shattered when I tested the portrait selfie mode in daylight and low light conditions. In both the scenarios, the iPhone 10's 7 megapixel selfie camera captured better selfie portraits as far as details and colors are concerned. In fact, in the daylight shot, the iPhone X selfie portrait captures a stupendous amount of details. Unfortunately, the edge detection is annoyingly bad. The algorithm is so aggressive that it eats up Ashish's face. In low light, the scenario is safe. The iPhone X cuts off Ashish's ears. Poor Ashish, really. So while the iPhone X captures some really good details, the edge detection is very poor. And since we are testing the portrait mode, I have to dock points for this shortfall. I shall give this round to the Pixel 2, then the iPhone X, and finally the Redmi Note 5 Pro. But if you don't care so much about zooming into the details, then the order changes. First comes the Pixel 2, then the Redmi Note 5 Pro, and finally the iPhone X. So to answer the question, the Redmi Note 5 Pro takes superb portrait shots using the rear camera and is better than the iPhone X in low light situations. But the Pixel 2 is still the reigning king of portrait mode. The fact that it achieves it with a single camera is proof enough that you don't really need two cameras to achieve a good depth of field. Moreover, the Redmi Note 5 Pro's camera struggles in low light compared to the flagship phones. Also, the selfie camera on the Redmi Note 5 Pro is good but not flagship grade. All that detailed dissection notwithstanding, I'm fairly convinced that the price of a smartphone is no more a barrier for capturing good photographs. The Redmi Note 5 Pro is a revelation when it comes to capturing photos. I hope you liked my camera comparison between these three phones, and if you want to see more such cool videos, again don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified about more such awesome content. Until next time, this is Ershad signing off. Tata.